everyone, my name is Alicia Cubitt and this is going to be my first read aloud. I've selected The Little Ghost as the book that I'm going to read. And the way that I'm going to bring the story to life is I have some goodies down here in front, so just some little toys, brownies, little pumpkins, that as I read the book and I ask the questions, if the students are able to answer correctly, then they'll get to pick a prize at the end of the reading. I have the little witch's hat here to kind of bring out the Halloween theme of my book. And then I also have a shirt that says the Wicked Witch can be bribed with Dr. Pepper. So that's just to kind of tie it all in together. So let's get started. The Little Ghost. The Little Ghost by Kate Kiter and Sue Nash, illustrated by Caroline Church. Okay, so I would ask the students, what do you think this book is going to be about by looking at the cover? What are some of your ideas of what's going to go on during the book? Who are some of the characters that you can see? There's a ghost here. These look like kind of some ghouls, maybe dragons, and there's also a witch on the front. So, on a quiet street among ordinary houses like yours and mine stood a large, empty, spooky house. Everything was run down inside, but perfect as far as the principal, Miss Sacrum, was concerned. It had creepy cobwebs, huge hairy spiders, creaky doors, and dust thick enough to write your name in. In fact, it had every modern convenience a spook could want. School for Ghosts and Ghouls. Principal, Miss Sacrum. Okay, so what can we see whenever we're looking at this picture here? We see the different ghouls and ghosts. We see the witch inside. So what can we tell about the first page of this book? And from reading here, we can tell that this is going to be a Halloween type theme book, that it's going to teach us some different things that are going to go on inside this school. You've all done very well in your scaring test, said Miss Sacrum to her class. All except you, little ghost. You've been a very silly little ghost, she snapped. Today is your last chance. You'd better scare somebody or you'll have to stay down with the babies next term. The bell rang and everyone rushed outside, screeching and whooping. Little Ghost trailed off after them. Perhaps you should go to the human school down the road, Miss Sacrum muttered. Those stuffy human teachers could do with a fright, and even you should be able to scare children. So what do we think the little ghost is feeling right now? How does it make him feel? Let's talk about some different ways that he can address this problem of not being able to scare people. Little Ghost wasn't sure about that. Children were such a noisy group, he was a bit scared of them. He reached the playground and watched the children going into school. Gathering up his courage, he floated in through the closed door. He followed the sound of voices and found himself behind some thick red curtains. From the other side, someone was saying, "This afternoon we're having our school play, the Halloween party. Would the witches go for a hat fitting in the sewing room, please?" Everyone else back to class. Little Ghost saw his big chance. A whole school to terrify. He leaped through the curtains, waving his arms. Quietly, the children filed out. Nobody screamed. Nobody even noticed. They're brave, thought Little Ghost. Then he realized he forgot to make himself visible. He floated down a corridor, peeping through doors. He spied some children sloshing around with paint and big brushes. If I scared them, there will be a terrible mess, he chuckled. But then a little girl shouted, "I'm going to paint a big star for the wizard's cloak." Little Ghost felt a wet, tickly feeling between his shoulders. She had painted a huge star across his back. Oh dear, he sighed and slid through the nearest wall. He looked around. He seemed to be in the bathroom. How lucky, he thought. I can wash off this awful star. Suddenly, two boys rushed through the door, turned on the faucets, and splashed water at each other. They dried their hands and ran out laughing. Little Ghost looked down on his tummy, which was covered with black handprints. What nerve! They think I'm a towel, he wailed. I mustn't give up. I must be brave, he decided, and marched through the wall. To his surprise, he was surrounded by whirling and buzzing machines. There was dress material everywhere. Little Ghost was in the sewing room. Quick, pass me that material so I can make the last ghost costume. A hand grabbed him, and he was slapped down hard on a table. A machine rattled, and he felt little pricks down one side. He was flipped over, and he was sewn down the other side. Luckily, you can't hurt a ghost. A bell rang, and all the children went out. Everything was quiet. Little Ghost disentangled himself, unpopped the stitches, and said, "This is silly. I must pass my test." Before he knew it, he had floated into the lunchroom. "Hello, Ghosty," said a little boy. "You're in your costume early. What are you eating? Bat burgers and spaghetti?" Everyone giggled, but Little Ghost was just stared at his plate. "Little Ghost, don't eat," he said in a very small voice. Everyone giggled again. Then they gobbled up their food and went to put their costumes on. So let's pause here and talk about how the little ghost is feeling, what some of the problems that he's had to face. Name some of the ways that the ghost can work through his problems. "I give up. I'll never be able to scare anyone," Little Ghost thought. He drifted behind the curtains onto the stage again. Everything looked different. Little Ghost climbed onto the high black chair in the center of the stage. Suddenly, loud music started. The curtains swept open, and little witches, wizards, and a crowd of ghostly figures ran on from all sides, shrieking. Little Ghost was so surprised that he shot up in the air. "Marvelous! Bravo! What a trick!" shouted the audience. He flitted through a scenery wall. "Amazing! How did he do that?" the children whispered. "Go back on," a teacher hissed, giving him a gentle push. Little Ghost glided back through the scenery. Everyone gasped in disbelief. "What a wonderful ghost!" the audience exclaimed. Little Ghost blushed with pride. He was the star of the show. After the clapping had finished, Little Ghost rushed back to Miss Sackram's. She was in the classroom teaching the spooks a different spell. "I've toed, wing of bat," she sang. Little Ghost burst in and shrieked, "I'm famous!" "Creeping cobwebs!" shrieked Miss Sackram, leaping into the air. "Oh, Miss Sackram, you've gone as white as a ghost," said Wanda Witch. "Tee-hee-hee," laughed Bonaparte the skeleton. "He certainly scared you." "Come here," boomed Miss Sackram. Little Ghost shook with fear, but Miss Sackram just laughed, went to her desk, and produced a certificate. "I think we can say you've passed your scaring exam now," she said. Little Ghost opened his eyes wide with surprise, and then he smiled. Just a ghost of a smile. The end. So what are some different things that Little Ghost was able to learn on his trips? Who are some of the different people that he encountered? How did Little Ghost solve his problem? And who were the main characters in the book are some of the questions that we would go through. Thank you very much.